All right, we're going to have our panelists back up. Let's give them another round of applause as they make their way up. Come back up, yeah.
They wanted me to do a song now.
Okay. Jimmy D is going to do a song for us.
Okay, first of all, there's a little story to this thing. I was raised by my grandmother, and sometimes, in the evenings, she would make libe, bangs, and cut them up, and then she'd always have a jar of Roger Golden syrup. And if you did your job properly that day, like my job was to haul water and chop wood, if I did a good job, I'd get maybe 2 bangs, and I could dip them into the Roger Golden syrup. But if I didn't, then I'd be sent back into the room with no bangs. So anyway, we'd sit around a campfire, and all the elders would visit, and sometimes we didn't have a fiddle or a guitar. And so my grandmother always taught us how you could just play with your lips. She said, a lot of people will exercise their arms, they get big arms and they get strong. You see all these guys around here with big muscles, and their backs, you exercise your back. You run, you exercise your heart and your lungs. But nobody ever exercises their lips. That's amazing, and that's a very important, Except, when I say to my Kokom, I run into the kitchen sometimes, and I'd say, Kokom, where's mushroom? She'd say, Uti, And she was always practicing with her lips. But the danger with this thing is that for elders like you and I, like some of us here, the elders, you have to be careful when you're practicing with your lips. Because if you're practicing with your lips, you go like that. And if you do that too hard, your lips, your false teeth will sometimes come out, eh? That happened to me one time, and I had to catch him in midair. In midair. Lucky I was fast enough to do that, and so. But it can become very, very. I'm just warning you, the elders that are like me. You be careful when you practice with your lips. So anyway. This little song, my grandmother used to play this song all the time. She'd go, and then practice with their lips. And then And then the other part is, but you got to be careful now when you're eh? And the moral of the story, there's always a moral with these Aboriginal stories. At the end of the day, if you practice every day, and if you're too shy to practice here, when you're alone at home and you go to the bathroom, just practice in there. Nobody will see you, and don't be ashamed to practice. So the second part is, Ngito ashta we higan ni wishuni akiyan mayo pigi wiyan shibang gishquipan everybody now bumpakadida ping ping. We go through so much in our lives, so much hardships. Once in a while, it's okay to laugh. Laughter is good medicine. Thank you very much.
Awesome, Jimmy. Whatever it takes, we're so gifted. That's a gift, a rare gift. Hey?
Where's the interlocutor?
Right there.
You got to start practicing your lips interlocutor.
Yeah.
Yes. There you go.
Oh my God, this is so much fun. Oh my God. So I'm going to ask Rebecca We have 2 videos. So this is the part of the panel where we do a Q&A. So there are mics out there. Same place, I think one right there. Right there. Steve might live right over there. Oh, the other one's over there. If you do a lip point with the back of a tilt, you know it's further than just here. Like, where's Inuvik? Right? So there you go. That's another thing that you can pass on. So Rebecca, I'll ask you to share the videos, explain the videos that we're about to screen.
So the 2 videos that will be seen on the screen, the first one is our Chief Executive Officer, Dwayne Smith of the Inuvialuit Regional Corporation. We had a dinner on the 4th day after all of the services. We had a banquet where we had some dignitaries. We had the Mayor of Edmonton. We had some federal ministers, and people come to speak. They gave me a few minutes to give a message to the families. And this first video you're going to see is Dwayne giving his speech about the Naniluvut project. And you'll see some highlights of the beautiful drum dancing and of some of the services. The second video will be of just a short clip talking to some family members after a service. So we'll let you enjoy those 2 videos.
We're here to pay homage, our respects, to put closure, to put to rest family members. It's going to service after service, and the strength that they showed. Some of these were private family affairs. It was at the discretion of the families how they chose to have their service. Some were public. I'm hoping, with the discussions I've had with some of the families, you can see the relief. You can see the weight lifted. You can see closure. Now I know where they're located. It's really good to see that, and I hope it gives you comfort. Thank you very much, Beverly. You've been adamant, just pursuing this task like next to nothing. She's been all around the city in the past searching these grave sites to try and get names and identify them, etc., as well as working again with our fellow coordinators. Big thank you. Thank you again to everybody, Koinak, Koinaine, Koana, for taking the time to come here and share with each other today, paying our respects to those that did not make it home, but are home in spirit. And a big thank you to the Inuvialuit drummers and dancers. It's not always an opportunity for most of our drummers and dancers to get together and share our culture, our pride, and you'll see it throughout the day. Really makes me proud to see all of them, the young and the old, here to share in the celebration of the lives that hopefully that we could rescue today.
My name is Isaac Alikar. This is my dad, Jacob Nibolayev. Passed away in May 25, 1960. He was born in 1909. I've been waiting 60 years for this day. Finally could have some closure. I'm glad. I want to thank IRC for bringing us here. I was 10 years old when it passed. Now, I've never really had closure. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad my 2 sisters are here.
I never got to meet him. He died 2 years before I was born. So, but I'm thankful that I was brought up by his wife, and she told me a bit of the history with him, and I'm so thankful that I was named after him, even though I never met him before. I've seen pictures of him, and my dad and my mom, my biological parents, would tell me a bit about him, and yeah, only because I'm named after him. So I'm thankful for that, and I'm so privileged to be here right now. It's a very touching moment right now for me.
My brother and I were in Stringer Hall when he passed away. And
Yes.
our mom was going to be left alone following year, so we didn't go back to school. My name is Annie Goose, and his adopted daughter, we're cousin to my brother, but we're adopted by all three of us. And I'm thankful to be here. I want to appreciate everything that is being done for us as a family and many others. Thankful very much. Kind of very much.
I know he opened up my blinded eyes one day. I know his precious blood washed all my sins away. I know his peace, sweet peace, has filled my troubled soul. Yes, this one thing I know.
There's one more? No, that's it. Let's give her a big round of applause. Those were amazing footage, and the video was stellar. The camera work was amazing. So this is the Q&A. You have a chance to ask questions of this amazing panel. My next question is, who's going to go first? Everybody's too shy. I want to ask a question. How did you manage to keep the work and the work that you've done in your community? How did you manage to stay intact yourself? What do you do as an individual? And having to uncover and having to be there for the community, because you're one person.
Very tough question, but thank you. First of all, I think it's faith that keeps me going and keeps me strong. And as I said before, and many of you come from small communities, and we suffer the devastating effects of alcohol and drug use, trauma, intergenerational trauma, survivors, and I've done literally hundreds of funerals. And our tradition, I was just telling someone, is when someone dies, we have to go to them. We go to them immediately, and that was one of the hardest parts for me as a young minister. I had two beautiful reverends ahead of me, older ladies now in their 80s, who schooled me. They were my education in how to handle these situations. So I always took them with me, but now they're both retired. So it's up to me to enter a home when someone has drowned, enter a home when someone has been shot, enter a home when someone has committed suicide. Enter a home when a young person dies, a child. And those are my biggest challenges. But I do so with love in my heart and the belief in my God, that He is a good God and that He will give me the strength, and He does every single time. And I have to give Him all the glory, because the words that come out of my mouth, the strength that I find to enter these situations head on, comes directly from Him. And I amaze myself at times, that we get through these tragic events and we have these services, And we come out at the end, like Wilbert's grandson said, we come out with kindness. And I have a family, I have 3 grown children, I have 8 grandchildren, and I dedicate my life to them. I work in my community on the Education Council. I'm currently in a run for the race for mayor. And I just think giving back is so rewarding, and when you're able to speak, you know, there's very few people that have that gift and that strength to stand up and speak on behalf of people. And when you have that passion in your heart, that's what drives you to do the good things for your people who need a voice. So that's where I draw my strength from, is the love that I have for the people, for the land. I don't live in my home community. I am an Inuvialuit. I was born in Inuvik, and as you can see in my bio, I lived across this great country, and I found some of my Cross Lake people over there yesterday, where I spent some time as a little girl with my nanny, or she claimed me, and she told me that I call her nanny. So with all of that, I now live in a predominantly Dene community in the Gwich'in Nation, and they've welcomed me, and they are my people, along with my Inuvialuit family. So we're all one people. I've heard that over and over this week, and as we work together and become one people, we become stronger. Yeah.
Wonderful. I think sharing best practices is what is going to be needed to move forward as we continue this work. And so we have that mic over there, young lady who is dancing.
Good afternoon, almost, I think. My mother also went to residential school. I too went to residential school. My grandparents on my dad's side went to residential school. And his mom, my grandfather's mother, went to residential school for a very short time. So I'm 5th generation. When my mom went to residential school, she was living out on the land like so many. She was born in Stanton. It's a community that was developed for the reindeer herders, and they had a homestead there. But they travel to the area, vast area along the coast, and they came and picked her up by boat and brought her to school when she was 7, I believe, 6 or 7. And she left her family behind, and the other reindeer herders and their families who became her family. And while she was there, when she was 8, her father, who was a reindeer herder who came down from Kotzebue, Alaska, he walked with the reindeer. It took him over 2 years, I think 2 to 4 years, something like that. And he was so young that, and he wasn't married, which was unusual at the time. So the lead herder that was bringing them from the Sami, the reindeer down to Canada, noticed that he wasn't married yet, so he asked his parents to see if he could join them and they'll send him back. But he met when they arrived to Canada, he met my grandmother, my Aka, I call her, and she wasn't married, which was uncommon too, but I would say they waited for each other. While they were at Anderson River, with their herd and the other extended families and herders, he became ill and with his appendix, and so they somehow called for a plane to come and pick him up at Anderson River, but it was very stormy. There was a blizzard, and it lasted 3 days, and his appendix at that time, it ruptured. but he managed to get on the plane, and he went to Aklavik. There was no Inuvik at that time. Aklavik was the central community in our area. And he arrived there and he passed on his way. So the Anglican Church residential school where my mom attended went to my mother and brought her to this small room and told her that she was 8. They told her that her dad passed away. So like any child, she wants to go see him. But they, two of the workers, they stood in the door, and she tried her hardest to go and see her dad, but they wouldn't allow her. And the same thing on his funeral day, they held her back in that room. She cried and she cried all day long. She said it comes to her memory, and she tells about it often to us because she's still grieving for him. He has an unmarked grave. She doesn't know where her father is buried, but she knows that it's in the Anglican graveyard, and it hurts her dearly to not know where it is. So those are the people too that we have to take care of and find where their loved ones are buried, because that's trauma. She's lived with it all her life. It hurts her to today to talk about her dad, who she traveled with everywhere. He was a reindeer herder. He'd pack her and amok her, brought her everywhere he went, and until she went to school, until she was taken to school. So I really believe those students who not only went through the trauma of everything in school, but weren't able to attend a passing of a family member who is so close to them in an unmarked grave, those have to be looked at too. We have to consider those people so our families can have rest. I just wanted to request that. Thank you.
Thank you. Noted. It's noted. Second, Mike, I'll ask you to introduce yourself as well.
Hello. My name is Jay Jones. My mom and dad were sent to Shinwalk Indian Residential School in Sault Ste. Marie, along with 3 uncles. On my dad's side, there's 4 generations of survivors, and on my mom's side, there's 2 generations. I'm currently helping in the search of unmarked burials at the Shinwalk Indian Residential School. And I've had the privilege to speak to different crowds in different places, and I get this question asked a lot about how do you do it, just like you asked these fine people up on the stage. And I have a Christian faith, and that's how I get through it. And when you just supplied the answer to her question, I could totally relate to that. The main reason I came up to the mic was to comment on that. And I appreciate that because it's almost like we're walking between 2 worlds. And it's in some people here that are urban Indians, so to speak, they're walking between 2 worlds. They're not accepted. They may not be accepted in both sides. So I just want to commend you for your walk and your faith and your courage to show that faith. Because in this room, the survivors and their families, and I totally understand it and I totally get it, that they don't like the church. But I believe we have to, and I'm not telling you how to live your life, but I believe we have to look at the church as these were run by people. they were ungodly people, but they represented the church. Not all of them were like that, but there were some. So when you think of the church as one entity, it really isn't one entity. There's just like any other religion or just like any other group, there's good people and there's bad people. So in the end, what I want to leave you with is that it's not all bad. There are true Christians that are here to help you. They understand your stories. They understand where you are coming from, and they have lived some of the lives that you have lived. My mother was the best example for that. So I appreciate you, and I appreciate all the elders, the survivors that are here, and your families. And we have, like we said, difficult work, but it's going to be very good work, and we'll be better off in the end. So, miigwech, and thank you.
Miigwech. Let's give him a round of applause. That was a beautiful, beautiful comment, and it reassures us that it is true that, you know, that some of our families have been divided because of religion, and that still affects us today. My mother is from Ebb and Flow, from Treaty 2 area, in a Roman Catholic community. They're now starting to pick up their pipe and powwow again. And my dad, raised us in Long Plain, Treaty 1, where they're staunch traditionalists. And we're nestled in between and protected by the Dakota communities around us. And so I was raised with the best of both worlds. And every one of them had, their own little taboos. And so for me, as a woman growing up in the city, you have to develop your own spiritual constitution, I find. That helps with guiding who you are and who you are to become as an elder. We'll go to this mic over here. And I'll ask you to say your name first, please.
Yes, of course. My name's Adeline Weber. I'm from the Yukon Territory, and I have the privilege of being the chair of the residential school burial investigations in the Yukon, and for some of the areas that are bordering, like Shingle Point Residential School is one of the areas that we have also been designated to assist with. So we've been working for the last year on several, getting ready to do our work. We're getting really close, and so, our situation is a little different than a lot of areas, because we are dealing with the entire Yukon Territory. We're not dealing with a certain reserve or certain towns and things like that. So we have another unique situation, but one of the questions that we wanted to ask you, and appreciate the work you've done. It's really wonderful to hear about that. But I will also say that I'm a residential school survivor as well. My family, of our family of 9 siblings, we attended 4 different residential schools in different provinces and territories. So, the family separation was another technique that was used to take the Indian out of the child. So, I have a lot of experience, and I've been asked to lead this process. So, one of the things as in the Yukon Territory, we would like to know is, how do you deal with healing around unmarked graves when they have multiple different religious beliefs? And in the Yukon, we have 14 communities, 7 different language groups, and many, many different beliefs and languages, like the Tlingit, the Tushone, the Gwich'in, Kaska, and now, the Inuvialuit people that we'll be working with. So we're wondering, how do you deal with healing around the graves when it comes to multiple beliefs?
Who wants to take that question?
I can take a shot at it. If I'm not good enough, I'll pass the mic over.
All right.
I just want to say that you're definitely a unique situation. Yukon is our neighbors, and I'm very well aware of all of your diversities and in your challenges. We were very lucky that this one project was headed by the Univale Regional Corporation and everyone. I think when they contacted the families, the options were given on who they wanted to do the services. They offered us, myself and lay leader Verna Firth, and the families agreed to it. So I think by giving them that option, because people have so many traditions and so many beliefs, that would be the best way. I know sometimes transportation and stuff can be difficult. Like you talk about Shingle Point, and I don't think people here understand, that's along the coast of the Yukon and no longer really a community. It was an outpost long ago. So we're talking logistics of traveling and getting people out there. So I think it's opening that conversation with the families, giving them the options, laying out, like Lisa said, best practices. And just respecting people's wishes. Like it was so personal. Every single service that we did in Edmonton, it was a journey of healing. So I think working with the families and getting that happy medium will work. Because I just wanted to go back to this gentleman's comment about, Christianity, and maybe we're not all, like Lisa said, she came from two different worlds. But it's all about mind, body, and spirit. And we have to be healthy in all those areas. And our people believed far before they were ever touched by missionaries in a higher power. Whether it was God or Creator or whatever they believed in, they knew that there was something out there greater than we were, and they put their faith into it. So I think just opening up the dialogue with families and allowing them to be a part of the choices and let them see the logistics of some of the stuff. We can't take 5 ministers to Shingle Point, but this is what we have to offer. And I think that just being respectful in that area.
Thank you. Gunji.
Yeah, I think, that you're absolutely correct. We need to involve the families as much as we possibly can. But something that we need to keep in mind is this is a brand new thing. I'm dealing right now with elders that don't understand why did this happen in Canada? So how do you deal with something like that? There's a lot of confusion out there. Yes, absolutely. You're absolutely correct that we always believed in the higher power. Mantu, that's the one that created us. And my grandmother said that Manitou, the creator, was a woman. And I always believed her, and I still do to this day. That's why when I pray to the Creator and I thank her for her beautiful creation. But something like this, when we find thousands of kids buried in unmarked graves, that is something that we could never even imagine. And so it's very difficult for us to find, what is the protocol? How do we deal with this issue? So the best way to deal with that issue is to involve the families, like you said, I agree with you there, and we need to keep in mind that there's a higher power out there, and that higher power will always give us the direction that we need. Thank you.
Let's give Jimmy a big round of applause for that. Throwing in his 2 cents like that, hey, Jimmy? We'll take this mic over here now. My sister Rhonda.
Hello, my name's Rhonda Head. I'm from Paskwarak Cree Nation, and both my parents went to residential school, and my dad passed away, not telling us anything what happened to him. But I wanted to share, I was, like all of us, I was triggered too when the 215 children were found, and then more and more were being found right across Canada. So me and my sister Janet went and do workshops in Regina, and she's doing some really amazing work about what the elder just talked about telling our people, because we don't know what happened to us. Like, I didn't know till I was 30 years old when I went to therapy, and I found out what happened and why I was so angry. but the therapy helped me. But anyways, we were coming back home from Regina, and she goes, "Do you want to go to Brandon to the residential school site where the children they were found?" And they're, so I said, "Yeah, okay." So it was my first time going there last summer, and there was like orange markings of where all the children were found, and immediately tears started coming down my eyes, and it was so emotional and real when you go to the sites where the children were buried, and I was like so overwhelmed with sadness and pain and feeling horrible for the children that were buried there. And I was about to cry uncontrollably. I was about to sob, and I was getting into my sister's car, and I was just feeling that ready to burst out crying. I got into my sister's car, and I sat down and ripped my pants ripped. And I just, that feeling of wanting to sob just immediately stopped, and me and my sister just started laughing. And I thought, those children, they didn't want me to bawl my head off. Our ancestors. So I wanted to share that story. But the question I have for the panel is, if other communities want to do a beautiful memorial like your video that you just did, is there somebody where you could call for the communities that are interested in doing a similar project?
Yes, one of the most places that you should call and ask for some assistance is with Stephanie from the Truth and Reconciliation. And if she doesn't have the answer for you immediately, she'll find a way to help you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Stephanie's also a filmmaker, and I'm not sure who was here for yesterday's panel with Chief Nipanak, but he's taken his own initiative. In Manitoba, for example, we have the best tax credit for filming in the country. So those kind of programs exist, and there's enough of us young filmmakers from the community where, you know, we can meet you halfway. You know, the survivors that want to share their testimony. And there is a testimony room here. But if you want to have editorial control, look one of us up. You know, there's every nation now, every territory has a group of filmmakers. So you know enough people, Rhonda. We'll leave that in your good hands.
Okay, I wanted to ask that for the other people in the room as well.
Yeah. There's like I found Chief Derek's presentation it was really informative, yours as well. And so those are the best practices that we talk about. For example, in Brandon, at the Brandon School, the Dakota Nations in and around Brandon, where my dad went to school, they are doing everything they can to protect that site where that school was, because it's now turned into a campground. And so those are the kind of things that we're up against when we're discussing these things. So thank you, Rhonda. Thank you, Chimigwich.
Hi.
And I'll ask you to please introduce yourself.
Hi, Lisa. Waylon Sinclair, sitting aso, pagkatawag ni, o sinida. Nitani doan, pides nimusum aga nuhom, agi upigitzig. I just wanted to get up here and say that this conference, like when I read the title, like Bring Our Children Home, I left Pucketawagan when I was 17 because I would not have survived there if I lived there. And I'm 42 now. I've been 26 years away from home, and I've decided, anot, punikisiwase, kiwi, punikisuminan. And then, yes, I've decided to go home next summer for my cousin's wedding, and it's going to be my first time going back home in 26 years. And I never saw my family again. My mother died 6 years ago. My little brother committed suicide. My sister-in-law committed suicide. And I haven't seen any of them since, and I will never see them again. but I'm going back for 1 day. And when they say bring our children home, that's what that means. Because they say bring our children home because a lot of these children are still alive. They live in this world. And they're not dead. They're not dead. They're alive. They're here. And yeah, I just wanted to say that because I'm volunteering to take names for the Christmas hamper list for people from Puck. And people are sending me their treaty numbers, their names, their ages, and their birth dates. And I look at the names these people are sending me, and I'm like, wow, these are old people. Like, how long have they been gone? How long ago did they leave home? And yeah, that's what I think bring our children home means, because these children are not dead. They're alive. They live in the world. Ego se.
Sam, Shimigwich.
Hello, my name is Jackie Bouvier. I'm third generation of survivors. I'm 70 years old. And I spoke yesterday, but what I need to ask the panel, that was a great job you did. And I want to give a statement in regards to when my mother talked about the two baby sisters. It wasn't a brother or a sister, it's two baby sisters, Jimmy. She said that babies are in heaven and they're angels and God is taking care of them. That's my mother saying that without her knowing, not knowing where her babies were buried. She had faith, Roman Catholic faith, right to the end. Some of my brothers and sisters were against that, but they were angry because of the treatment she got. One of my brothers was taken from her arms, 6 to scoop. And we found our brother 2 years after my mother passed away in Nevada, United States. My nieces have gone to meet my brother and his wife. They live in he married out of Las Vegas, an hour out of Las Vegas. We are having a family reunion in Seattle with him and his wife. He's 73 years old. And his children. He doesn't have no history, nothing whatsoever. He was adopted out in northwest Saskatchewan. My mother found out the last name of the adopted parents. And that's where we started. And it wasn't good when he was there. He ran away from Meadow Lake at 15 years old, ended up in Seattle. My sister, on the other note, her name was Toni DeRocher. She was in the Air Force. She was put in an orphanage. My mother's first husband died of TB in 1940-something, 46, I think, her first husband. And she had children from different men. Those children were taken away from my mother because she didn't have a husband at home in Beauval. This is a survivor that went to residential school, and that's the way she was treated. I'm from her second marriage, Bouvier, that worked for the residential school in Beauval. My sister was taken away and she was put in the orphanage, and the Métis, because she was Métis, put in the orphanage in Prince Albert. She was sexually abused there. She's got a daughter somewhere. We don't know where that daughter is. She came home from the orphanage. She drank. In the village of Beauval, they called the RCMP. The RCMP put her in a Saskatchewan hospital, mental hospital. She got shot treatment there, the ice baths. She was never the same. for walking down the street in Beauval Village with a gun. She was just walking. I don't know where she was going with the gun. But anyway, it's just continuing. The cycle is continuing. I faced a lot of things in school too. And the trauma is still there with me, and I'm all alone besides my brother in the States and another one in Saskatoon. So what I plan on doing is finding the sisters, and that's when I'll have closure, and for my mother. I have a question for Jimmy. The Indigenous minister was in Alacross, I forget what year. There was a big celebration. Lawyers were going all over phoning and getting a hold of all the Métis because she was going there. The only thing, Carol, I call her Carol Burnett, but, the only thing that I know of is she helped knock down some school. That was it. What was the visit for?
Well, to be honest with you, the visit was sponsored by the community of Isle Lacrosse. There was over 350 survivors there, and that's when we put together that committee. And she was invited to come, and we were trying to convince the federal government to look at Isle Lacrosse residential school issue and to recognize it as one of the residential issues in the same way, in the same manner that they recognize the First Nations. And that didn't happen, of course. She didn't come there to make no such announcement. She came there, as far as I'm concerned, for a photo op, because she asked for a little hammer, and we provided her with a hammer. She proceeded to go with some of the other officials to the last standing building boarding school, the boys' boarding school. You know where that was, Jackie. And she went there, and she helped smash a couple of bricks. And it was more of a photo op than anything else, because we were hoping that she would at least make an announcement that the Isle Lacrosse boarding school issue was going to be dealt with. And nothing ever since has happened, and that was 4 years ago now, Jackie. It's been a long time. So Isle Lacrosse is still waiting to be dealt with, and we need all the help that we can get. So thank you.
One more question.
Okay.
With the children that passed away in the boarding school, where are they buried? Do you know?
That's the big question that we have in Isle Lacrosse right now. There used to be, you know where the graveyard is on the south side of the community? There used to be a fenced-off area. The mission built a fenced-off area, and they actually had a little fence. And only people that were not baptized and little babies that died and without a baptism, that's where they were buried. They were segregated from the main the main graveyard, I guess. And that's an awful thing, but that's a fact.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Jackie.
Okay.
Belinda, mic 2.
I'm not quite a stop. Just wait.
Just
Oh, I can't even. Okay. Thank you.
thank you, Cameron.
Jeez, that's what happens when you're only 5'4". But I think I'm 5'3.5" right now. Anyway, my name is Belinda Vandenbroek. I'm McGillivray from OCN. I was born at home at Big 80 Reserve, which is my home reserve. And I've been sober for 47 years and have been on my healing journey for just about as long. And thank you. Oh, yeah, thank you. I really am proud of that. I don't know if I'd be alive today if I wasn't sober. You're the... All right. Sorry about that. Oh my goodness. Anyway, so I went to residential school for 10 years. I went to Mackay School in Dauphin, and I went there when I was 9. So we did residential school healing gathering here in 2001 to 2004 at the Forks when I worked for Wabang Abinujak. And when I asked my board members if I could put on a residential school healing gathering, they said, why would you want to do that? Hello. Anyway, so of course I explained why. This is one of the end results of the effects of residential schools, which was a program that was working with children that witnessed violence up to 6 years old, and we had a women's program as well as a youth program. Anyway, so we did that for the 4 years. It was amazing, and I would do it again in a heartbeat if I wasn't 74. I wish I was 72. No, just kidding. But anyway, so in the years that I have been on my healing journey, and believe me, I have researched and learned anything from anywhere. I don't care where it's from, but if it helps to make you feel good, I'm in. Okay, so I know a few things that I can help people with. Takes about 15 minutes. I will be sharing it in my session today at 2:30. But the one thing that I want to show you, now our elders always said, and they told us that water has spirit, okay? And of course in my colonized mind when I was young, because like I knew everything there, remember when we knew everything? And at that time I went, really? Okay, so of course it's true. So anyway, fast forward a few years, I met a friend who said, you know who you need to read about? Dr. Emoto, E-M-O-T-O. Amazing what he's done with water, okay? And there is a point to this at the end of it all. And so I did that, I researched, I watched his CDs, and so what he did was when whatever the water was presented, like the water that's sitting right in front of you, whatever is presented, the water will take a shape. It has, water has 6 crystals, okay? If you can see that. That is your water crystal when you're saying prayers.
Wow.
Look at how beautiful it is. It's like a diamond. And you should see the crystal when gratefulness, even saying that word makes a difference. So there's lots of reasons why we need to know about that, because our little children have water. We're all water. As long as we're alive, we are water. That's where we come from, and that's how we are. So in my session yesterday, we talked about what kinds of ceremony do we want to do. So one of the things we talked about was to have the water ceremony. And now most people know, and do water ceremonies, but we wanted it to be very specific for the children who never came home that we're finding now. And so they had water at one time. So when you do the ceremony and you're praying, you want to ask in a way to help the parents whose child never came home. And people say, well, they're probably passed now. I'm sure they've already passed, but that's okay. We need to acknowledge the parents as well. And I really believe there should be a national day of recognition and honoring the parents, all our parents, of us children that went to residential school. We don't talk much about them. And I think that needs to happen at a national level. But I really wanted to share this because I wanted to show you how water crystal looks like. It's very amazing. I think even when you say the word Mother Teresa, and you know she was full of love and kindness and gentleness, the water crystal just about looks like this. So Dr. Emoto and his work, I honor him. He's already gone to the spirit world, but he was an amazing, and then he said, the only reason why people are listening to me is because I'm a scientist. Yeah? Our ancestors have been saying it forever and ever, and we don't listen very much, or anyone else as far as that matters, you know? So we need to honor the spirit of the water, of the children that have gone, the parents who may have been gone, and every single person in this room. I honor your water, I love your water, and I love my water. And I'm one of those people that not scared to do anything, seriously. And I don't care what people say. If they say, is she crazy? Why is she doing that for? Well, that's okay. I do things because I know and it feels right. My spirit tells me when I'm on the right path. So I hope that everyone will consider when you go home and you're making a decision as to how you're going to honor the children, that you pray specifically to their spirit. And they're, like somebody said before me here, they're not gone, because spirit is alive all the time. It's on this side or the other side. Anyway, that's it for now, folks.
Wonderful.
And
Thank you,
I love
Belinda.
You all. I love you all. And look at that when you pray. Isn't that amazing?
Awesome. Thank you.
Anyway,
Thank you.
I could go on forever. Thanks, Lisa.
Yeah, Chimigwich. I'll ask Auntie Marge to, Marge Rosselli.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Margaret Rosali. I'm from Sioux Valley, Dakota Nation. So I bring greetings from the unceded territory of the Dakota Nation. I wanted to share a few things with you. I am an elder, both here and in the United States. I do a lot of work with a lot of our people. And I'm also a member of the Water and Land Protectors, and I was at Standing Rock in 2016. And so I wanted to share the work that we do in Sioux Valley regarding the unmarked burial grave sites in 2 locations. When my late brother was chief of Sioux Valley, he purchased the original land where the Brandon Residential School stood. And we've been working at trying to put a healing lodge there to transform a place of hurt and grief into a place of healing. And in that process, we came upon the stories of the survivors. And I'm a survivor. My grandparents, my parents, and my siblings and I all attended residential school. And during that work, we found out that there were 2 sites, not the major 2 burial sites, but also, other sites along the school property. And then there was a cemetery that was north of the school site, and there's a cairn there with 14 names or something around that. But when we did the ground imaging work, there was lots more than the names that were carved on that marker. And then in the southern area along the Assiniboine River, where there's an RV park, there's swimming pools, ball diamonds, tennis. There is another burial spot there that the school had utilized to bury some of the students. But now it was privatized and bought by somebody, and it is now an RV park, and they will not let us onto the grounds to mark the spots, find the burial sites of those students. So that's been an ongoing conflict, and we've been doing this work since the early 90s when the land was purchased, and now the work began in earnest 10 years ago, trying to identify all the sites. We've been meeting with all the communities that we could from the southern area of Manitoba to come and speak at our annual gathering every year, trying to determine what was the best course of action. And that was whether to find the spots and dig them up, put them through DNA testing, to return them to the original communities, or to transfer them up to the cemetery, or to leave them there and mark a little, markers around them so that people wouldn't walk on them. But we go there, annually to honor the bodies that are buried there. We don't know the names. We have not had much effort you know, and trying to deal with the property owner of the RV park. But our work has been ongoing for many years. And I also was talking to the lady, I forget your name, but I shared with her that in our community, in our Anglican cemetery, and by the way, I'm a licensed lay reader, so I work with a lot of people in regards to doing services for burials and for wakes also, like she did, so that we had that in common we're talking about. And we have a lot of people from the north that are buried in our Anglican cemetery. We know the general direction, it's in the eastern part of our cemetery. We don't know how many are buried there, you know, they're not marked. All we know is that they are from the far north. That's all that we know of them. So there are a lot of visitors from the north that are buried there. And I just wanted to share that. And I understand that this has been a hard time for some as we think about all the things that have gone on within our communities, within our individual, you know, people's lives. And I wish everybody the best in their journey. And, you know, whether we walk the traditional road, and I do walk the traditional road, but I also, you know, work with the Anglican Church, because my mother went to residential school until she was age of 16, and I have her little diploma at home that says, you know, you've now graduated out of Brandon Residential School. And my father also went to, but he kept his traditional way of life. He didn't go as long as my mother. And when he was talking, he said, you know, all the school hours that I spent, school years, I think if you compress them, he said, I must have a grade 2 education. But he lived the traditional way of life, and he taught me that, you know, growing up, I spent a lot of time with him as his caregiver. And he died a few years ago at the age of 92. But my mother remained a Christian all her life, you know, and she was indoctrinated, I guess, because she always said that, oh no, don't take part in those Indian ceremonies. They're not good. And so I made the best of the two worlds and melded them together to suit my walk and to help as many people as I can during my my journey here on earth. So I wish everybody the best, and thank you for this time.
Thank you, Auntie. Thank you, Chimigwich.
Mina wopere.
Yeah, wopira. And we have one final mic, and please introduce yourself. Yeah.
Good
Ben,
afternoon, everybody. My name is Sadie McQuaid. I just had a quick acknowledgement and then question. I wanted to acknowledge everybody in our booths today for having all the information ready to go and really consumable for us. I also wanted to acknowledge the progress report that the Office of the Interlocutor has released. I think it was a great report. My question is, in the next report, will we have a more in-depth list of resources? I know that all of the resources that they have available or the programs that we're speaking about, I don't know where to find them. And I know that for a lot of Indigenous communities, maybe if you're older or you're not as well connected, it's still hard to find those, even if we're talking about it here. So I was just wondering if that would be included in the next report, or if we could have, you know, a special website or something similar. Thank you.
I'm going to ask the special interlocutor to answer that one.
Thank you for that question. The progress report was a report that I was required to give to the government and to leadership. We're currently updating and creating a new website, and we're going to put links to all the resources and additional resources. We're hoping it's going to be up. I'm hoping to see a draft of it on Thursday, and hopefully it'll be live very shortly. So yes, we will be putting more links and resources available. But in the meantime, feel free to just contact our info line, and we'll get back to whoever does that and provide resources.
Chimigwich, and I'd also like to remind the folks, the good folks in this room, that we do have a statement-taking room. So if you feel the need to want to share your testimony, There are resources here. There are health supports as well. But I also want to thank this amazing panel of folks that have come to grace us on the stage. Let's give them a big round of applause as they leave the stage and get to enjoy their lunch.